Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We are here to celebrate the very last YouTube Live in the series for our January Whole30. We finished elimination, we finished reintroduction, we are now firmly seated in our food freedom, and we wanted to come together one last time in this series to say congratulations, great work, talk about your non-scale victories, talk about your reintroduction learnings, and answer any questions that you might have about your food freedom journey. So this day is really all about you. I don't necessarily have any prepared remarks. We're no longer working in Whole30 day by day. So, we're kind of just free forming it. If you have any questions at all about your food freedom, if you want to talk about what's next, if you want to talk about applying your Whole30 learnings, if you discovered some things during reintroduction that were surprising or exciting, I would love to hear about them here. So jump on in. Of course, we have Whole30 HQ in the chat. Thank you so much, as always, to Whole30 HQ for facilitating such a great conversation, dropping in links and resources along the way. And yes, we are so excited that you have made it through your food freedom, Whole30 journey into your food freedom. Good morning, Kathleen. You must still be in reintroduction yourself. I think you are about 10 days behind, so let us know how your reintroduction is going and what you're finding in your reintroduction experience. Good morning from Texas to Kate. Really good to see everyone here again. I hope we all had a nice long weekend. I had a 4-day weekend. We have paid mental health days once a month at Whole30. So Friday was our paid mental health day, and then Monday was the holiday. So we all had a nice 4-day long weekend, and I made the most of it. So it's nice to be back here with everybody. And good morning. How is everybody's food freedom reintroduction or food freedom reintegration going? Let me know how you are finding your food freedom experience. We're now in the phase where we take what we've learned during Whole30 elimination and during reintroduction, and we put it to good use. We have spent the last 30 plus days doing this amazing self-experiment where we eliminate foods. Good morning to Serenity. We've reintroduced foods. We've compared our experience, and we know what life is like without these foods that we eliminated. And when we added them back in, we were able to compare how it impacted our energy, our sleep, our mood, our cravings, our digestion, our joint pain and swelling, our acnes and allergies and asthma, all of these different things that may have changed when we eliminated certain foods and may have changed again when we reintroduce them. So let us know how things are going, how your reintroduction went. Now the comments are starting to roll in. Good morning to Meredith. Hello, hello. Food freedom feels good, but it's a little scary. Yeah, Marian, I understand. There are a lot of people who find the Whole30 program rules very comforting in that for 30 days, you have these set of guidelines that you follow that removes all executive function, or at least like a lot of it, and willpower out of the equation. So you're not walking down the grocery store aisle looking at the bottle of wine going, should I or shouldn't I? Like if I just buy one bottle, doesn't mean I'm gonna drink it. If I do open it, maybe I can only have a glass. You're not doing that anymore on the Whole30 elimination phase. You are saying for 30 days, there will be no A, B, and C. So when you walk down the grocery store aisle and you pass the liquor, you probably don't even go down the aisle because it's not something you're going to put in your cart. A lot of people find that very comforting and very reassuring that for 30 days, we're kind of telling you how to eat, and people are allowed to take the focus off of what should I eat and put all of that focus into how do I feel? How is this impacting all of these different body systems? How am I feeling physically? How am I feeling mentally, emotionally? And that gives you a whole lot of capacity to really tap in, to check in with your body and see how things are going. In your food freedom, of course, the benefits are that you no longer have to follow someone else's food rules. I read an article today from someone who did the plant-based Whole30 in January, and the author was like, why can't I eat my sushi rice? I know rice works great for me. I eat it all the time. I know it works well for my digestion and my immune system. I know it works well for my blood sugar. Like, I do really well with rice. I was kind of annoyed that I couldn't eat it for 30 days. I feel that. When I go back and do a Whole32, there are foods where I'm like, ugh, I know a little bit of sweetened nut pods in my coffees, like no big deal. But when you do the Whole30, you follow the rules 100%. Even me, even the 9th time I've done the program. So you now get to bring these foods back in that work so well for you. And you know this because you eliminated, you've reintroduced, and you've compared your experience. So that's the really good part. That's the fun part. It's the part that lets you say yes to the things that are so delicious, so special, so culturally significant or important to your family that you don't want to miss out. It's the foods that are absolutely worth it. And that's really the definition of freedom, being able to choose for yourself the foods that are worth it according to your definition and according to your own health goals and your definition of health. But it can feel a little bit scary because now you don't have someone else telling you what to eat. And if you found that comforting, now you have to make those decisions for yourself. But if you remember during reintroduction, we really prepared you, I think, well for this journey in that you would reintroduce the food group, then go back to the Whole30 elimination phase for 2 days in between. So that if you had a negative response, if it made you bloated or upset your digestion, or if it set off cravings, you had a day or two to let those symptoms kind of settle down and evaluate. Okay, that was interesting. When I reintroduced added sugar all by itself, I didn't have any issues. But when I reintroduced gluten and some sugar together, I had a ton of cravings and it really seemed to hit my mental health. That's really interesting. What should I do with that information in my food freedom? And it bought you the time and the space. Without reintroduction, you would eliminate, and then we would just say, okay, good luck. Go back to the way that you were eating. May the odds be ever in your favor. And you wouldn't have that comparison experience nor the time to ease into this food freedom landscape. So I understand that maybe it feels a little intimidating because you have had someone else tell you how to eat for the last 45 days or so. But I want you to take what you've learned on the Whole30 and apply it in your food freedom. And one of the things that you learned is that you can trust the signals that your body is sending you. You can trust what your body is telling you. So if you ask yourself, is it worth it? And your body says, yes, I think this is going to be worth it. Then I want you to trust that. And I want you to enjoy it conscientiously. I want you to enjoy it deliberately. If you get halfway through and you decide this isn't as good as I thought it was, you don't have to finish eating it. That's one of my self-care rules. If I take something, if I think something's going to be worth it and I take one little appetizer at a party and it's just not worth it, I don't eat more. If I get a donut at the donut shop with my husband and I take a bite and I'm like, this donut's not worth it, I let him finish it. So that's part of your food freedom experience. If you get all the way through it and then 2 hours later you realize it wasn't worth it, that's not a failure. That's a mission critical part of your Whole30 journey. So what I want to, impose upon you is that there's no failing in your Whole30. It's all just a lesson. It's all just a learning experience. And you're going to take the signals that your body is sending you and the cues and what you've learned. You're going to make conscientious, deliberate decisions. You're going to ask yourself, is it worth it? Do I want it? And whether it is worth it or whether it isn't worth it down the line kind of isn't the point. What happens at the end of that experience is that you have yet another data point and yet another learning experience to take with you into the next time you make that decision. So I want you to go into your food freedom feeling empowered because you've learned so many new tools. You have so many new skills to navigate stress and negative emotions and discomfort. You have even more tools to tap in to listen to what your body is telling you. And you have a ton of information about the foods that do and do not work fantastic for your system. All of that combined makes you really well prepared to step confidently into your food freedom. And I want you to do that. So I appreciate you sharing that with us. Marianne. Ruth is saying, thank you for giving us permission to not feel shame or hold judgment around food. I'm so happy to hear that, Ruth. That's, I think, one of the biggest benefits of the Whole30 is that we work very hard to remove morality around food, shame around food, the idea of good or bad around food. You know, as I've been on my own Whole30 journey since 2009, I have been unlearning diet culture along with everybody else. And I still have unlearning to do. I think we all do. But I love that the current voice and the messaging and the intention of the Whole30 and what we have tried to impart through this YouTube series has made a difference. That makes me very happy to hear. So thank you so much for sharing that, Ruth. We are back. Hello, Lisa. I know Lisa from Whoop. It's good to see you again. Excited to discover how good you felt the day after reintroducing non-gluten grains and surprised that ice cream went well. You know, one of the messages we've been sharing heavily for the last couple of years is don't go into reintroduction assuming that everything's going to be terrible. It's a net neutral environment. You don't know. Maybe it's going to go awesome. Maybe it's going to go okay. Maybe it's going to go not great. Maybe it's going to go terribly. But you don't know. Go in with an open mind. I have also found that non-gluten grains, in particular rice and quinoa, and for me now, oatmeal, work awesome in my system. My diet and my activity levels and my performance are all so much happier and better when I include those foods in my food freedom. It's hard for me to get as many carbohydrates as I typically need, especially in the summer when I'm doing these really long hikes and I'm way more like low intensity active, walking a lot more, hiking a lot more. I can get carbohydrate from potatoes and fruit, but I'm not a huge fruit person. Potatoes, like I can only eat so much. I like the addition of rice and oats and quinoa into my everyday diet. It fits my lifestyle. It fits my health context, and I'm happier when I get to eat them. So I'm glad that you found some of those experiences too. And yeah, in the context in which you ate it, ice cream went well. Perfect. Awesome. Continue to pay attention when you eat ice cream. You may find that there's a point where you're like, okay, I can't have it 4 days in a row. All right, I can eat it like 2 or 3 days in a row, but not 4 days in a row. Or if I eat ice cream with like a bunch of hot fudge on it, like a sundae, it's like too much sugar and then I don't feel really good. Maybe you'll find context. Maybe ice cream just works great for you. And no matter when or where or how you eat it, it's gonna work great. And that's amazing. And then you take that with you and you put it in your back pocket. So when you ask yourself the question, is ice cream gonna be worth it? The answer might be yes, almost all of the time. But I love that you had that experience. Let's see. Kathleen is updating because I know you were a little bit behind. You just finished your last reintroduction and you're skipping alcohol. I get it. Learn some things make you feel real bad, and Whole30 is great and you're not in a hurry. I like that too. I mean, there were so many times during my Whole30 where it's not that I put off reintroduction. It was just, I was like, I'll just give it one more day. Like it wasn't on purpose. I wasn't scared to reintroduce, but I just felt so good. And eating Whole30 is so easy that I was like, well, I already have my meal plan. Like I've got leftovers for the next couple days. I already know what I want to make for dinner tomorrow. It's Whole30. I've got a whole package of Applegate no sugar chicken sausage that I might as well use up. And sometimes I would, just roll with my program for 35 days, 40 days, 42 days, because it's just easy to keep eating Whole30. And then even after my reintroduction, even now in my food freedom, I would say that my diet is still like 84% Whole30 compatible. The biggest exceptions are rice, which I eat almost every day, oatmeal, which I eat almost every day, hummus. I'm eating a lot more hummus now. But like that's about it. Occasionally I'll have a Reese's peanut butter cup. Occasionally I'll have some hot buttered popcorn. But like for the most part, my diet is still Whole30 compatible because it's easy, it's delicious, and I love it. And it makes me feel my best. So I like that you're not in a hurry. And I think that is a fantastic attitude to have. Renelle, good morning and welcome back. First day of your food freedom. You did alcohol on Saturday and it went well. Good. And you're reading Food Freedom Forever and it's good. Yes. Okay. So we've got Food Freedom Forever here. It's available in paperback and it's available in audiobook. And I did narrate it myself. I love reading my own audiobooks. I would never let anyone else narrate my audiobook. That would feel weird. I love reading my own books. But this is your food freedom handbook. This is your manual. This is your 3-part plan. This is your troubleshooting. This is how to have conversations with friends and family around food as a good supplement to the Book of Boundaries. This is what you need. This is where your plan is. So I'm glad that you're reading it and enjoying it, and I'm glad that you're finding it helpful. And I'm happy that alcohol went well for you if you enjoy that. Jessica is saying, I know no foods are bad, but you're finding you need to remind yourself of that as you eat quinoa or black beans for lunch. It's a switch. Yes. I mean, when we've had something just like drilled into our heads for decades, the idea that foods can be bad, and we still in the media are hearing that now. Fat is bad, carbs are bad, vegetable oils are going to kill you dead, they're toxic, they're poison. There are so many influencers and media and even medical doctors and even experts in the field who really use this, I think, very problematic language around food where we are moralizing it, we are demonizing it, and not discussing any of the context or the nuance and not purposely looking to remove morality from food. And it's very common to go into your Whole30 saying, well, the reason we're eliminating these foods is because they're bad. I read a book that talks about how gluten is like the devil. And so, of course, we eliminate gluten because it's bad. And so we do a lot of education pre-Whole30 to say, remember, you're not eliminating these foods because they're bad. They're just unknown. They can be problematic, but we don't know if they're problematic for you. Think about the number of people in this world that are allergic to cats. I'm one of them. I'm allergic to cats. Not all cats, but some cats. And when I get around a cat that I'm allergic to, my eyes swell up, they get super itchy and watery. I am miserable. That doesn't make cats bad. It just means that in my context, I have to be more careful around my association with cats because they don't work great for me. But nobody would ever say, well, cats are bad. Look how many people are allergic to cats. Cats are bad. That's silly. People are allergic or sensitive to all kinds of things, and nobody ever moralizes those things as bad. People are allergic to grass. Grass is not bad. So we have this association with food because this is how it's been explained to us by diet culture forever. And we may have brought it into our Whole30. But what you're discussing now, what you're saying now is, I need to remind myself of the fact that this quinoa or these black beans are not bad. That's exactly what you have to do. We have to keep reminding ourselves because that's how you actively unlearn. When you recognize a thought process in your head that is no longer true for you, that is no longer helpful for you, that you recognize is harmful for you, it's okay that those thought processes still insert themselves. It would be like you can't turn them off at the drop of a hat. But what you can do is say, ooh, okay, I recognize that this is an echo. And I don't actually believe that anymore. So no, thank you. I'm going to allow this thought to just pass. I recognize it. I see you. I'm just going to let you pass through me because I don't believe this is true anymore. And I'm going to go back to eating my salad with my quinoa and black beans. That's exactly what you have to do. I mean, it's a practice that I've had to do in therapy around a lot of different situations and scenarios. And I do call them echoes when certain thoughts make their way back into my head because of an older situation or problem or trauma or what have you. I recognize that they are there. Oh, okay, I hear you. I see you. This is just an echo, though. It's not real. I don't believe this anymore. This doesn't serve me anymore. And now I'm going to unbelieve it. And those echoes fade with time, as they will for you when you continue to actively remind yourself that there are no good or bad foods. There are no good or bad foods, and you are not good or bad when you eat foods. So thank you for bringing that up because I think that is a really important point. And you're not doing anything wrong with the fact that you have to keep reminding yourself. In fact, you're doing it right by saying, I am actively reminding myself to unlearn the things that are no longer serving me. So I actually think that's great. Meredith is saying, I learned that I needed to be careful with dairy and I wasn't eating enough protein and veggies before. Yes, I love that. Animal protein or eating enough protein, not necessarily even from animals, is so important for our satiety. It's important for, making sure that we feel satiated and well fed between meals. It's obviously important for athletic performance, but also just general health and well-being. And some of the protein guidelines that are foisted upon us by the powers that be, many registered dietitians think that, that amount of protein is not necessarily enough for most people to maintain a healthy lifestyle. And so recognizing that you need more protein and how much better you feel when you eat more protein and more vegetables on the Whole30 meal template, I think is a huge win. And also you've had 30 days of practicing eating higher protein meals. You've had 30 days of practicing, including protein with every meal, and 30 days of practicing, including protein with every mini meal, or at least most of your mini meals. So I think that's going to carry with you very well into your food freedom. And that's certainly a practice that you can continue with easily and effortlessly. So I like that, Meredith. Good observation. Darlene is saying, hello, looking forward to this. All of your reintro foods have given you issues digestively. That is a bummer. And so I see a follow-up though. Let me see what your follow-up is here. Is it a problem if you're staying in elimination mode and once in a while worth it, intro one thing and see how it goes? You have autoimmune conditions and feel better with Whole30 approved foods. Yes, Darlene. Okay, I'm so glad you asked this. When someone has autoimmune conditions or, complex health history, Whole30 by itself is often not enough to completely resolve those symptoms. We wouldn't assume that it would be, right? Dietary changes can go a long way towards helping people relieve symptoms and health conditions, but of course it's not like a fix-all or a cure-all. And so if you have discovered in your unique context with your health history and your autoimmune conditions that many of the things that you've reintroduced don't work well for you, then I think it makes total sense to continue to eat in a way that makes you feel your best and is easy to continue to maintain. And if that's a Whole30-ish framework for you, then yeah, go for it. Again, like I would say, maybe you don't have to be so strict with the no added sugar. So maybe there's some maple in your chicken sausage. Maybe you go back to the collagen protein that has a little bit of monk fruit. There are certain aspects of the Whole30 where I don't think you need to be as strict, because I'm guessing that you wouldn't necessarily notice a digestive difference between the Applegate no sugar chicken sausage and the Applegate honey maple chicken sausage. I could be wrong, but if you've discovered that, then go ahead and expand your dietary framework to be less lax or more lax rather on the no added sugar rule. Maybe you don't need to maintain that at all. But if there are items that did not work for you digestively, then it makes sense to avoid them unless it's really worth it. And that was your second question. Is it a problem if I'm happily staying in the Whole30 elimination mode? And again, maybe you loosen that up in a way that still serves you. And once in a while, when it's worth it, bring one thing in and see how it goes. That seems like the perfect solution to me. You are now creating your own set of guidelines in your food freedom in a way that is going to keep you feeling your best. And your is it worth it is going to be different than mine. I don't have those same health contexts. So the is it worth it for me might be far more robust, because I know that if it ends up not being worth it, it's not going to decimate me or anything. I might be, a little bloated or a little cranky for a day or so, but I don't have serious reactions to just about any food. Whereas that you do. So I think this plan sounds great. Continue to think about how you can expand your baseline diet. Maybe the Whole30 elimination phase is sort of your foundation, but where can you continue to add things back in a way that feels really delicious, maybe makes, meal prep and cooking and shopping feel a little bit easier, where again, you're not reading every label for added sugar, but is still keeping you feeling your best. And then when you come across something that you think is gonna be worth it in your context, go ahead and eat it and see how it goes. Yeah, that's exactly what you do in your food freedom. And sometimes people's food freedoms look like adding a whole lot of stuff back in all the time. And sometimes it looks like adding not that much back in, only infrequently. My personal food freedom looks like both of those, depending on the context and the time frame. Over Christmas break, when I was home and I wasn't working for 2 weeks and my husband and I were just hanging out together, there was a lot that was worth it. We went out to a few amazing dinners where the homemade bread on the table, which is normally not worth it for me, was totally worth it, because in that context, I could handle whatever symptoms popped up. My life was super stress-free. I didn't have to show up anywhere. I wasn't working. But in 2 weeks, when I go to travel for work and I'm in LA for the whole week at this big trade show, and I'm going to be on my feet and I'm going to be on camera and I'm going to be doing media and I really have to be feeling my best, there's going to be very little that will be worth it, if at all, because my context is different. So one person's food freedom can look like the broad range, and certainly everybody's food freedom is going to look different based on your own individual context. So I think you asked a great question, and I think your plan sounds solid. Kathleen is saying a lot of reintroduction, one at a time. Yes, sometimes one ingredient, sometimes one item at a time. I think that's smart. Again, the slower you go, the more you'll learn. But it's comforting to know if it makes you feel bad, you have Whole30 to return to. You don't have to keep feeling bad. This feels like a breakthrough. Like, this feels really important for me to acknowledge. Because in the past, I will only speak from my own experience, but in the past, before Whole30, I would eat healthy according to like whatever I thought was healthy at the time during the week. And then on Sundays, I would have a cheat day. And I would eat anything and everything I wanted. It was like, and I literally called it a cheat day. And I would eat things that I didn't even want just because I could on that day. And I would feel terrible on Monday. And guess what I would do on Monday? I would just keep eating whatever I wanted because I already felt bad. And what did it matter? And I already like ruined my week. I mean, I had such an unhealthy relationship with this idea of like what eating healthy looked like or seemed like. And I was doing a fitness program that encouraged you to eat like this. So that's a whole nother story. Now that you've done the Whole30, you have a template for eating that you know makes you feel great. You know that if you go back to Whole30 elimination, even if it takes a couple days, you're gonna feel great because you had 30 days of feeling better than you've ever felt in your whole life. You know that you have this blueprint, this template. This is like your home base, right? Like when you're playing tag, you've got your like safe home base. Whole30 elimination is your home base. If you stray too far and you do something in your food freedom and you're like, oh, I don't feel good, or you have a vacation. I talk about this in Food Freedom Forever. If you have a vacation, if you have a stressful life event, holidays, those are all really common scenarios in which your food freedom might flex to the point where it feels not good anymore. Where you're like, oh, I've stopped asking myself, is it worth it? Do I want it? I've just kind of been eating whatever. I haven't really been paying attention. I don't feel good, which makes me want to eat more, like kind of food that I know isn't going to make me feel good, but what the hell? You know, you can always come back to that home base. And even if it takes a couple days or a week or 2 weeks, you know you can get back to feeling amazing, and that is your reset. And I love that. I think that is such a smart way to approach it. I don't always want you to come back to doing another Whole30. In fact, I would rather you follow Kathleen's approach for the rest of your life and never need another Whole30 again. I would rather you work your food freedom plan. And if you discover that you're kind of like, oh, my food freedom doesn't feel so good anymore, I want you to think about, okay, well, what can I do to feel better? Could I go back to my Whole30 elimination for a couple days? Sure, let's try that. Could I just, you know what, it's the alcohol and it's the like eating late at night that's making me feel terrible. How about I just continue my food freedom plan, but like I just cut out alcohol for a week, or I just cut out alcohol and snacking for a week, or maybe for a month. I want you to see if you can create your own set of parameters, your own guidelines to help you continue to feel your best in your food freedom. And if you really need to, if you feel like, okay, I need the support, I need the community, I need the accountability, I need a decent amount of time on the program, then come on back and do a Whole30. We'll always be here. We will always be here if you need another Whole30 program. But I don't want that to be your first go-to. I don't want you to have one food freedom experience where you ask yourself, is it worth it? And then it wasn't worth it. And then you panic and you go, I'm going to do another Whole30. I really want you to work your food freedom plan as I've outlined it in the book. I want you to take a pause and to check in with yourself and to reflect on what went well and what could have gone better and what you're going to do next time, and to see these as learning experiences that are only going to help you inform your food freedom, and go back to your food freedom plan in whatever format looks right for you in that context. I want you to do all of that actively before you just give up altogether and say, well, I'll just do another Whole30. We will always be here. But food freedom and working your food freedom plan does require some effort. And I want you to put in that effort. And like Kathleen said, If you need it, just go back to eating Whole30 elimination for a couple days. Maybe it's not even full elimination. Maybe you're not stressing about added sugar or your white rice because you know that works great for you, but like you're just going to cut out the other stuff that you know isn't making you feel great. And you come back to that for a couple days and then you feel amazing and then you go back to working your food freedom plan. It sounds like a really fantastic plan and a really strong strategy, Kathleen. So I like that for you. Serenity, peanut butter RX bars triggered a reoccurring rash that you had been living without during your Whole30. This is why we ask you to try one food group at a time, because if you had eaten peanut butter with pizza with ice cream and the rash came back, you'd be like, dang it, I didn't have a rash and now I have a rash, but what the heck was it? Now you know it's probably the peanut butter, because I am assuming that everything else in that RX bar were things that you were eating during your Whole30. Almonds, egg white, protein powder, you were probably eating eggs. But now you can go back through this RX bar, which has very limited ingredients, which works in your favor, and go, all right, what do I think it was that brought the rash back? And then if you want to test it, again, maybe you test out just peanut butter by itself or just egg white protein powder by itself or whatever those sub-ingredients are so you can really pinpoint it. But I'm glad you figured out what the trigger was so that you can avoid it, because there are other flavors of RX bar. If it turns out it's the peanut butter, just eat a flavor that's not peanut butter flavored. And now you're good to go. And now you can avoid this unpleasant side effect that before seemed like it was coming out of nowhere. Now you have a handle on it. And I love that. That is the perfect example of reintroduction being so mission critical and why it's so important to do one food group at a time. Good morning, Patricia. You've missed them. I've missed them too. You're feeling great. I love to hear it. Thanks for sharing time and expertise. Oh, I'm so glad to hear it, Patricia. I have loved these lives with you so much. They've been so fun. We've talked about so many things that I would never have shown up prepared to talk about, but the conversation just led us in such a great direction. We will be continuing them, and I'm going to have some kind of like schedule or template or plan for you soon, because I'm traveling quite a bit in the next 2 to 3 weeks. But yes, we're going to continue them. I will be back. We will continue to just have these like check-ins where we can talk about whatever happens to come up. I really love these check-ins with you as well. And I'm so glad that they have been helpful. Lee, I'm so glad that you have been a Whole30 gal for years. I love to hear it, and it works for a lifetime. Yes, I love that. I mean, for me, it certainly has. It's been 13 going on 14 years now, and still going strong. So yeah, I love to hear it. Susan is saying it makes perfect sense. You love to make ground beef, turkey, cauliflower rice, veggies, quick Whole30 breakfast for lunch. I will continue making it. Yes. I mean, when you do 30 days of the Whole30, you discover your favorite meals. You discover your meal templates. You discover batch cooking. And I'm just going to roast up 2 trays of vegetables on every Sunday. There's kind of no reason to stop doing that. If you love those foods and you love the meals as much as I love my smoky sweet potato chili, and I made the Real Food Dietitian's white chicken chili again the other day, and that's like my son's favorite meal. He loves that. So we just do a big old batch in the slow cooker, and that's like dinner or lunches for the next couple days. If you have your routine down, just keep doing it. Keep doing it. There's no reason not to. And then that becomes the foundation for your diet because it feels delicious. It feels easy. It feels satisfying. It feels rewarding. And then if you're missing something, go ahead and add it back in your food freedom. Is it worth it? Do I want it? Go ahead and add it. We made the white chicken chili from the Real Food RDs, and I added white beans to it this time. So totally Whole30 compatible recipe. The only thing I added were some great northern beans, and everybody loved it. Everybody's digestion was amazing. Everybody was so happy with it. It felt really filling to me. The beans added such a nice texture. I actually forgot that I added the beans, and I took a bite last night and I was like, what is this? Is this like potato? Did I add potato to this? But no, it was a white northern bean, I believe they're called. And it was delicious. So yes, if you discover that there are things in your food freedom that work great, make a Whole30 meal and just add it on the side. Most of my meals now, instead of making cauliflower rice, I make regular rice because that works great for me. Or I'll just mix cauliflower rice with regular rice, or I'll add beans to it. So all of these things can be floated right into your normal Whole30 meals in a way that hopefully feels delicious and hopefully feels satiating and really rewarding, and in a way that continues to keep you feeling your best, because that's the key. We want you to continue to feel your best. And there is the link, of course, for Food Freedom Forever. You're loving how easy, is it worth it, do you want it, comes up for you now. Yes, Abby. Yes. I have talked about this so many times before, and I talk about it in Food Freedom Forever. In the beginning, it is going to feel, I won't say burdensome, but you're going to be like, oh, am I going to have to think this much about food forever? The answer is no, of course not. But when you are new to a habit, of course you have to think about it a lot in the beginning. Think about learning how to drive a car, right? When you first learned how to drive a car, a million years ago for me, I would get in and it was like, okay, seatbelt, rear view mirror, side mirror, foot on the brake, start the engine, is it in park? Like, you're thinking about all of these things. And I felt like I was spending all of my time and attention on just the technicalities. I wasn't even out of the driveway yet. You don't think about any of those things now. You literally get into the car. It's just habit, right? Habit is the brain's way of taking these behaviors that we do all the time and allowing us to perform them to, our normally high standard without having to spend so much executive function on it. Because if we had to spend executive function every single day on taking a shower, brushing our teeth, drying our hair, driving to work, making breakfast, we would be exhausted before we even got to work. So, is it worth it? Do I want it? Is the same thing. In the beginning, because this might be a new habit, it is going to feel like you're spending some time and attention on it. Every time you look at a food, whether it's beans or hummus or the break room donuts, you're going to ask yourself, pause, is it worth it? Do I want it? Maybe you'll give yourself a little timeout before you answer. You walk in, you see the break room donuts, you're immediately like, yes, and then you go, okay, I'm going to pause. I'm going to go make my coffee first. And if I'm done with my coffee, having thought about, is it worth it? Do I want it? And the answer to both is yes, then I'll have a donut. Or maybe I'll cut a donut in half and see if a half of one is worth it. Or, maybe I'll just have a donut hole, or whatever you feel like you want to do in that moment. You won't always have to think about it that much. It comes automatically to me now. I don't ever think about it conscientiously. It happens in a split second. I'm looking at something on the menu. Is it worth it? Do I want it? And I might run through a couple questions, right? The bread at the table at the restaurant. Is it homemade? Is it warm? Is it a type of bread I like? Did they bring me enough butter with it? Because if it's bread and they don't bring me enough butter, it's like not worth it at all. So I might ask myself some follow-up questions so I can really narrow down on it. But it happens effortlessly and quickly and immediately. And the more you practice, the easier it will become for you too. And Abby is already saying it comes up so easily for me now. It's just what I do with food. And I love it. I love that. So the more you practice, the easier it becomes and the more habitual it becomes. Yes. Hi, Trent. Good to see you here. Finish first round of Whole30 on Saturday, and you have a personal training. Is there anything you look out for that isn't Whole30 that I keep for exercise? Okay, I like this question, Trent. So when I do a Whole30, there are some things in my diet that I am not eating that I would normally eat. So I have this plant-based protein powder that sometimes I like to supplement with if I'm like on the go and I can't come home and eat a post-workout meal. I can drop the link into my stories. It's by Form, and it's a plant-based protein powder, but it works super well in my system. I wouldn't do that if I was on a Whole30. Oatmeal post-workout. I eat my Creatures of Habit oatmeal post-workout like most days of the week, and I don't do that if I'm on a Whole30. My ProBar gummies. So when I hike, when I do long hikes, I take a pack of these ProBar gummies. They are straight sugar. They're tapioca syrup. That's like the only ingredient. There's 50 grams of sugar in one little packet, and I will eat that on a 10 or 12 or 14-mile hike because the carbohydrate is awesome and they go in my system really quickly and easily, and I don't have to stop to eat them, and they work great. And I don't do those on a Whole30. You may have given up whey protein powder or soy protein powder or whatever was in your protein shake during your Whole30. The key is adding those things back in reintroduction carefully enough that you can evaluate whether they work for you in reintroduction. So if you were really missing the idea of a protein shake, you may want to try a whey protein shake, a soy protein shake, and a plant-based protein shake, and just do one of them on one day and see if there's one of them that works better for you, because you don't want to. Yes, I miss my whey protein shake, but when I reintroduced whey, it went terribly. My digestion was awful for the whole day, and I was like, well, that's not worth it. So for me personally, yes, there are some things that I eliminate for the sake of a Whole30, and then I bring back post Whole30 because I know from reintroduction that they work really well for me. I also think that there's a difference between like training and like game day nutrition. So if I am just training and I'm doing an easy hike, an easy 5 or 6 mile hike up my canyon, I'm not going to eat those Pro Bar gummies. I don't need them. But if I'm doing like a 14-mile hike at 12,000 feet with my sister, like I'm probably going to take those because my game day nutrition on that day is really important. You may find that there are things that you wouldn't want to use in your training that you might want to use on game day, like those goo packs or gel packs, right? You may not use those on most of your training days, but you want to be able to use them when they count. Make sure you test those too in reintroduction so that you don't get to game day and have an kind of a factor that's unknown where you're like, oh, I didn't reintroduce these because I only use them like twice a year when I'm doing long races. I hope they work for me. You never want to do that. So make sure you reintroduce anything and everything that you might want to work in your athletics, see how they work for you, and then make adjustments where needed. So hopefully that helps, and hopefully that answers your question. It's going to be highly individual though, what you choose to bring back in. Kathleen is saying you just got your bubs. It took weeks to get. Yes. I mean, we ran a promotion for them, of course, and I'm pretty sure they sold out very quickly. So I'm sorry about that. That usually happens when we run promotions for bubs, but I'm really glad that you got it. And their coffee is absolutely delicious. So I hope that you enjoy it. Welcome back to Hiroko. Good morning. Listening to Food Freedom on audio, and you believe you'll have peace with food after this. I love that so much. Your whole family appreciates the program. Thank you so much, Hiroko. Comments like that make me so happy. I never get tired of hearing people's Whole30 experiences and how it changes their lives and how it changes their whole family's lives. And I'm glad you're listening to Food Freedom, and hopefully you're enjoying that content as well. So that makes me happy. Welcome back, Bill. You had your first Creatures of Habit. Gonna be a staple. Heck yes. And cold showers? Bill, are we best friends right now? I think that we are. Okay, Creatures of Habit, high protein oatmeal. This stuff has been like a staple of mine for years. I was trying it before they even launched because I happened to know someone kind of on the inside with the company. And as soon as I tried it, I reached out to the company and I was like, you need to get me in touch because I'm a huge fan. You can make it a couple different ways. The best way, as far as I'm concerned, is the overnight oat method. So I pour a package in like a mason jar or in a bowl. I add an unsweetened nut milk. Know that it's going to thicken up in the fridge. So I make it maybe a little bit runnier. And then I just throw it in the fridge overnight. So I'll make it the night before, so I'll have it ready in the morning. I find the overnight oat method just melds all the flavors and the textures nicer than doing the instant. I still do instant, don't get me wrong. I'm like, sometimes I just don't have time. So I'll throw it in a bowl, I'll boil some water, I'll add some boiling water, stir it. Sometimes I wait 3 minutes. Most of the time I don't, and I just eat it. But the overnight oats method is my favorite, hands down. I think that's the coolest way to do it. I also released a newsletter last week. I will also share this in my stories today. There's a recipe that Alyssa, who works on my team, created where you make these Creatures of Habit oatmeal cookies. And they're not cookies because the only ingredients are a package of Creatures of Habit, some nut milk, and a mashed banana to kind of hold it all together. But you can mix all that up and smash them down into patties and bake them, and then they become portable. And they are delicious. I love this cookie version too. And you can take those on hikes or road trips or eat them in the car where it would be awkward to have like a bowl with a spoon. I'll share that newsletter to my story today as well. So I've also heard that people can blend it into a shake. I've never tried that. I'm not like a shake person, to be honest, but I have heard. So you can go to Creatures of Habit Instagram and they probably have like a shake recipe in there. You can drink it for sure if you wanted to. But I'm so glad that you like them, and I'm glad that they're a staple. And you can use I'm pretty sure you can use my MU20 discount code on like every order. I don't know if you can do it on a subscription order, but you should always use my discount code. You might as well save money. Yes. And Kathleen was saying fruit was what you needed, but from Whole30, you found out your digestive issues resolved by having more veggies. I love that. I love that a wider, broader array of produce on your plate brought you the success that you were looking for. That makes me very happy. Susan wants to try Creatures of Habit too. It would be a great option on the go. That's what I like about it is I pack like 2 of these Creatures of Habit, they're like this big. I pack 2 of them in my carry-on. And if I am at the hotel and they either like don't have a good breakfast or their room service breakfast prices are outrageous. When I was in New York City, I looked at room service for breakfast before I went to Good Morning America because I needed something quick and I didn't have time to go out for breakfast. They wanted like $8 for a single hard-boiled egg. And I was like, absolutely not. So I whipped out my Creatures of Habit. I went down to the restaurant. I was like, hey, can I just get a cup of hot water? Poured it in, mixed it up, had an amazing breakfast. It's hearty. It's delicious. I know it works great in my digestion. It tides me over until my next meal. That's like my pre-media breakfast, basically 100% of the time. So it is super good for on the go. If you're camping, if you're hiking, if you're traveling, just take a pouch with you. All you need is hot water. It's fantastic. So yes, I definitely think you should give them a try. I will share the link in my stories again for you. Abby is saying, building off the mention of things not being worth it around big events or prepping, how far ahead do you tighten up your food plan? That's a good question, Abby. If I'm traveling or doing media, I will typically, starting about 3 days before, start going, nah, it's not worth it. Because most of the time, I know that actually basically all the time, any symptoms that I experience when I eat gluten, when I eat dairy, they go away within like a day or two, with the exception of the fact that gluten makes me break out. And it can sometimes take like 5 or 6 days for like a blemish to go down, which if I'm doing national media is just annoying. I just don't like it. So I will typically go at least 3 days out and I will go, okay, definitely no gluten, 100% no. I'll really tighten up my dairy. Like most of the time I just say 3 days out. But it's going to depend on how you react to these foods and the way that you react. So if I know I have a friend who has RA where if she eats gluten, her joints swell and she has joint pain and swelling, and that can sometimes last for days. So if you know that you have like a big hiking trip or a girls trip or vacation or something, and you just don't want swollen joints, you may want to back it up by like a week. So it just depends on your context, but I do back it up by a few days at least so that I know I can head into my trip feeling my best. Good night's sleep, smooth digestion, clear skin, good energy. And for me, that's typically about 3, maybe 4 days. So good question though. I like that. We're thinking ahead. Darlene is saying, you feel like you can finally experience food freedom and it brings you to tears. I love that. I'm so happy, Darlene, that you have found a program that works so well for your health context, for your autoimmune issues. Definitely go into those. Food freedom, is it worth it? Do I want it? Go in nice and slow. We want to keep you feeling your best. And I'm glad that you feel empowered now to do that. That makes me very, very happy. Abby's also sharing a non-scale victory, said yes to a cookie, took 2 bites, put it down, and left it. Yes. I talk about in Food Freedom Forever my 1-bite rule. That was born in Portland, Oregon. I was traveling in Portland for business. I was by myself. And Portland is known for its donuts. They have Voodoo, they have Blue Star. I think it's Blue Star. But Portland is like a donut town. I'm not a donut person, but everybody was like, you got to eat a donut while you're there. And I'm like, you know what? If these donuts are that life-changing, like, yes, let me eat a donut. Went to, I can't remember which store, stopped, got a donut, brought it back to my hotel. I got ready to eat this donut. It was, I remember it's like a chocolate glazed. I go simple when it comes to donuts. Got back to my hotel. I unwrapped it. I was so excited. I took 1 bite and I was like, nope. I mean, no shade to the donut. It wasn't about the donut, but like it just wasn't for me. And I didn't finish it because I'm not going to eat something that both isn't worth it and I don't want. That doesn't make sense to me. I offer strategies in Food Freedom Forever for how to do this with minimal food waste because nobody wants anyone to buy a box of a dozen donuts, take a bite, and then waste the entire rest of the box. I was on that trip by myself. There was no one else to give the donut to. I did not finish it. But I would like all of us to avoid food waste as much as we can. And I offer strategies in the book for how to do that. If we're not sure something is going to be worth it or not, can we pass it off to someone else? Can we only take a small piece? Can we split one with somebody? Can we serve ourselves and just take a small portion? But ultimately, I would rather waste a half a donut or 3/4 of a donut than eat something that I know isn't going to make me feel good that I don't even like. That feels like self-care to me, is just saying I'm not going to eat anymore. So yes, I think that is a good strategy. Oh, Renelle is saying the Bubs coffee is delicious. We love it. I'm so glad that you're enjoying it. Let's see. The lives have been awesome. Thank you, Meredith. I'm so happy to hear it. Yay. And more check-ins. Yes, of course, we're going to do more check-ins. Yes, more. I want to be showing up for you here on a regular basis just so we can like touch base and say hi. I'm all for it. Jessica is saying, I realize they need to limit red meat to roughly once a week or you feel icky. Good observation. Great. Yeah, so go ahead and limit and focus more on turkey and chicken and fish and seafood and eggs and maybe some plant-based protein sources. You know, if you did the original Whole30 and you reintroduce soy, tofu, tempeh, beans, what have you, and they worked great for you, those are now protein options. Those are now ways for you to get additional protein into your diet in a way that is not an animal product. So go ahead and eat them. I have tempeh pretty regularly these days. I really like it. I still have to figure out how to prepare it. I'm like not great at preparing it. Sometimes it comes out dry, but that's not tempeh's fault. But yes, if you have realized that red meat just doesn't make you feel great, that definitely can happen. Eat less of it. Absolutely. Good finding, good observation. Susan is saying for an NSV, you started up. I remember you were doing your plank challenge and you stuck to it and you're up to a 3-minute plank. We were talking about this a few weeks ago when you would I think you were working towards a 2-minute plank, which is very long. I don't think I've ever held a plank for longer than 2 minutes, nor would I care to. It's a very long plank, but I love that you have found the discipline, the motivation, the self-confidence to be like, yes, I'm going to stick with it. You know, sticking to something for 30 days straight is a skill. It's a talent. And that will carry over into other adventures for you, like your plank challenge. So keep us posted when you hit that 5-minute plank. That is so long. Do you listen? Like maybe you listen to a song to pass the time, like I used to do in my cold showers, where I would listen to a song and just commit to stay in during the entire cold shower. Whole30 here is sharing the Creatures of Habit link. The code is MU20. That will save you 20% off your order. I like all the flavors. I tend to rotate through flavors so that I don't get bored. But they have, I think, 5 or 6 of them now. And they're absolutely delicious. Great for on the go. So give it a shot. And thanks for sharing that link. All right, we are just about at the hour. And sadly, I have a finance call to run to at 12 o'clock. So I'm going to wrap up this wrap up. But this was a great conversation. Y'all brought some really good observations, some really strong questions, some good points of sharing and talking points. And I really loved getting to wrap up the January Whole30 with you. So for the last time for January, at least, thank you for joining me for these lives. It means a lot to me that you would show up for yourself, for the Whole30 community, for each other, and for me during these lives. I'm so glad that you found them helpful. You can go back and rewatch any or all of them the next time you do a Whole30, or if you have a friend or family member starting the Whole30, tell them to go back and turn these lives on as they're cooking dinner or walking or driving home for inspiration and motivation. And I will be back with you once we figure out a schedule for regular touch bases to talk about Whole30, reintroduction, food freedom, boundaries, whatever you want to talk about right here on the Whole30 channel. Be sure to like this video, give me a little thumbs up before you head out for the day, and subscribe to the Whole30 YouTube channel so you don't miss a video. It's been great chatting with you here today. Congratulations to everyone who finished a January Whole30. I'm so happy for you. I'm so proud of you. And I look forward to seeing you on the Whole30 social media feeds or on my social media feeds at Melissa Yu. So thanks everyone. Have a really good rest of your day and enjoy your food freedom today. Bye everyone.